When we talk about the law and how the law treated women in the past, we have this tendency to take the sensibilities, the interests, the concerns of modern women, or at least a segment of modern women, and then project those concerns onto the women of the past. And in so doing, we end up misjudging the law. When we talk about the law in the past, we should ask the question for any given time period: what did women want? What did they need? What did they expect? What were the issues that concerned them? What did they expect out of society? What did they expect out of men? And when we go through that exercise, I think we end up with a better perspective. I tried to provide some examples of this. One example that I did provide had to do with the struggle for women's suffrage. And there was an essay by a historian named Joe C. Miller. The essay was entitled, "Never a Fight of Woman Against Man, What Textbooks Don't Say About Women's Suffrage." And in the essay, he pointed out a couple things. First, there were plenty of men who supported suffrage, but there were a lot of women who opposed suffrage. He points out that anti-suffrage organizations, for most of the history of the struggle for women's suffrage, anti-suffrage organizations registered far more women than pro-suffrage organizations did. And there were some reasons for this that he goes through. And one might ask, well, why did women oppose the right to vote? It seems crazy to us now, because again, we're examining this issue in light of the values of our time. Back then, a lot of women were heavily invested in the idea of gender roles, that men had a role to provide. They had duties that they had to meet, that those duties, women were supposed to be relieved of those duties. They had this idea, I'm using their words, not mine, but they had this idea that they were the beneficiaries of quote, special privileges. And they feared that if these gender roles started to be blurred, that women wouldn't be beneficiaries of these privileges anymore. And many of these, as he points out, many of these women feared that promiscuous women were going to start voting and having an influence on politics. There was also this idea that most women were virtuous and that they kind of transcended the dirty world of party politics that was dominated by men. Some women leaders felt that they had more influence by being outside of that world. And by the way, there is some logic to that, because prior to suffrage, a lot of these movements, these anti-vice, anti-muckraking kind of endeavors that were led by women, they were very influential and had an enormous impact on policy. But the broader issue here is that women in a different time period had a different idea about what was appropriate, and thus the law was a reflection of that. And in the succeeding videos, I'm going to try to give some more examples of this as well.